Hello. Thank you for joining us. I have Annie Phenix here from Phenix Dog Training and Behaviour Consultancy. We are so sorry. We all these clock time changes is so confusing. And yeah, so please bear with us when we have these issues. I'm just going to put up for anybody watching on StreamYard. We can't see who is speaking if you've got a question for Annie. So if you allow StreamYard to access your Facebook, we can actually see your name. Otherwise, we just get Facebook user. If you're on YouTube watching, then you'll be fine. But yeah, don't know why that is. It's just a glitch with StreamYard. But Annie, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to chat with you again. And we are going to be talking about reactive dogs. And I think this is a really good topic because, you know, how do we help them, faster than what we think? That's a big question. And we've got some questions as well that have come through. But let's maybe talk about that first.
Okay. Well, I'm thrilled to be here, and I've been watching the summit. I love all the speakers. I was saying before we started, I learned from every single person, and it is taking up my life at the moment, which is good because I love learning and I love everything that you're doing, and I love reaching dog owners. And I'm just going to say real fast that what happens to dogs is dog owners are in charge of that and not us. And so we beg people to be advocates for their dogs and not let anyone harm them ever, including trainers, especially trainers. And when I talk about helping dogs faster, that's one of the complaints that I hear from owners about force-free training and not using punishment, because punishment will, to the uninformed eye, it seemed like you solved the problem, but you didn't for the dog at all. You just muffled the behavior, and the dog tends to shut down and lives a scared life, scared to make the wrong move because they might get pain in their neck, or mom and dad are mad or whatever. So punishment can appear faster, but there's fallout, and we know there's fallout, and it breaks the bond. So force-free training doesn't break the bond. It's not what it's about at all, but historically it can be slow. Counter conditioning and desensitizing, which we've used for a very long time in the industry, can be slow. It's like watching paint dry. And so I've been since I read The Midnight Dog Walkers in 2015, since then I've been thinking about what can we do that's faster? And I didn't come up with anything in that time, but I got asked to write a second book, Positive Training for Aggressive and Reactive Dogs, in 2021. So I put on my journalism hat, and we shared that in common and said, what's new? Who, what, where, when, and why? Who's helping dogs? Where, when, what are they doing that's different, that's faster? Because owners need their problem solved, period. We're in that society, but the faster we solve the problem, the better the life for the dog. And what I discovered made total sense to me from 16 experts, it's not just any one of them, was that I think we put the cart before the horse, and that we focused on training and the science of training. You have to do this first and then that first, and a lot on behaviorism and a lot on laboratory experiments from 50 to 60 to 100 years ago that were quite cruel and weren't natural and abusive to dogs, actually. And they were harming dogs who were already in stress states. And so fast forward, our dogs are now more stressed than ever because we're more stressed than ever. So we need to help them quickly, or it's not going to end well for the dog, particularly if there's fighting involved. So that's kind of my focus, is how can we do this faster without harming the bond? And when I say we put the cart before the horse, what I mean is we focus so much on the training and the science, and we forgot about the welfare. I feel like it went to the back burner, and getting really good as trainers on understanding the science and teaching the science, that you got to know it for sure, and it's beneficial. But but what works faster is solving the emotional problem for the dog and relaxing that nervous state. Teaching a dog to self-regulate their own nervous state, and we haven't done that as an industry. And that's what I love teaching people, and I learned it from all these other people. I did not come up with it. It is based in science, based on human work, somatic body work and grounding and tapping and getting to that so-called lizard brain deep inside your head, because the body keeps the score, as the book says, and we remember trauma, and our body reacts before our thinking mind can say don't do that. And I feel that's very similar with reactive dogs, so-called reactive. They might have had a scare. They just might feel trapped just alone on a leash. That could do it for some, and they can't escape when a scary dog or trigger is on their daily walk. And so just doing counter conditioning, desensitizing does not calm down the nervous system. It can look like it does, but that's the cart before the horse. And I saw this graphic recently that I could not get out of my mind of the nervous system in a human. And it had like the eyeballs, kind of like a skeleton eyeball, and all the nerves that went all down through your head. And there's so many different nerves. And the vagus nerve, of course, is very important to our being calm, basically. And all of our vagus nerves, most all of us are, it's out of whack because our society is out of whack, and our dogs' nerves are out of whack. So to me, it's only fair to calm those nerves down, and they can't do it themselves. Humans aren't even all that good at doing it. You know, we use medication for ourselves, we self-medicate, we zone out on television, whatever it is. And I have learned how to calm myself down through somatic body work, and it really is important how we are, because we are influencing the dog more than the dog is influencing us in terms of emotional energy, because we control everything. I've learned to heal my own trauma from my toxic childhood, and it tends to come from childhood chronic trauma. But you could have a house fire or a divorce or a death or something, and you still feel traumatized. Just society in general, I feel like it's traumatizing us, and therefore our dogs. I've learned to calm my own body down by regulating my nervous system. And that's not for humans, for me. It's not talk therapy. I did that. It's not reading all the books. It's somatic body work, which I've learned from a lot of the experts in the book, particularly Dr. Laura Donaldson and Sarah Fisher with her free work. And so that's why I say we can do this faster, and based on experiences that I've had with client dogs and some recent foster dogs. Instead of saying, sit down, heal, someone called, look at me, instead of looking at the thing you're scared about, let's put all that aside. I'm not saying don't do it, but don't do it first. Walking at a heel and loosely walking even, to me, is not the most important thing. I want a dog, when a dog comes into our home, a puppy or an adult dog, we're probably the second home, if not third, fourth, or fifth home. You know, they went to the breeder, and who knows what the breeder did, if they're treating the dog right and doing all the things the breeder has to do. Who knows if the mother dog was calm? Probably she wasn't treated well. Then they might, if it's a shelter dog, go to maybe end up in a shelter, or maybe they go to a home and then a shelter, and then a foster, and then you. And I love foster. I foster. I love shelter people. They're the best people in the world. 4 homes, 4 or 5 homes by the time it gets to you. Even if you bought a dog, that's possible. Certainly you're off in the second home, and we take them as vulnerable puppies. If you're buying a dog, and that dog has lost everything that it knows. And so to me, and then we invite everyone over at pre-COVID, and look at my cute puppy. And we trainers as the industry said, socialize, socialize, socialize. And that's the cart before the horse. And I ask owners, keep your dog at home for 30 days, your new dog. It doesn't have to be 30 days, but at least 10. Let that nervous system relax. Get to know the dog before you put on the leash and let's go meet everybody in the neighborhood and invite the 10 kids over to pet it. Does the dog like petting? Does the dog feel comfortable? Is he exhibiting stress? I feel like that is what will get us to safety and security and calmness and resiliency way more than sit down, stay, heal. If that makes sense.
Yeah, there's so much confusion about socialization. I mean, some people think it's taking a dog to, the dog park and letting them interact with other dogs. Some people, you've got the vets that say, don't get the dog out till they're 16 weeks old because of the vaccination difficulties, distemper, parvo, all that sort of stuff. And then, you're you've got the opposite where, leave the dog at home, but then take it out, but wait till the dog is maybe decompressed from where it's come from. Yeah.
I think it's usually the first 4 months. And a lot of times based on science, trainers will say you have 16 weeks to show that dog, is life safe, is life not safe. That's how I see it. I see socialization as safe or not safe. And because they're timid and they're young and everything can be scary. And it's our job to make it not scary and to reassure and to go slowly. That to me is, I'm going to do this safely and securely, because I would rather do fewer things in the beginning, but do it in a way that builds confidence and builds curiosity and builds resiliency. So then when it's new, even at 18 weeks or 19 weeks or 1 year old, the dog has this long history of, oh, that's a new thing, and you're kind of leading me, and it's going to be fun, and we can do it. It's not like we used to tell people you have to do everything, 100 things, 100 days within 16 weeks. And that's too much. It's not letting the dog decompress. It's not putting the nervous system first. It's not teaching resiliency. It's not teaching curiosity. It's just kind of formulaic. And dogs are not formulaic any more than we are. You know, you can have a very outgoing toddler and a very introverted toddler. And that's just part of who they are. And so to try to take your very shy toddler who is, you know, doesn't want to, you know, maybe hiding behind their hands and say, go play with all the kids on the playground right now.
They're like,
You might have a shy dog or a hesitant dog. And I assume, like my friend Andrew Hale, a UK behaviorist, he says, and this changed how I treat people and all dogs. He says, when I meet new people or new dogs, I presume there's trauma. They presume there has been trauma in their lifetime. And if you walk into a new situation, including with the owners, if you presume trauma, then we need to get at the root of the trauma, not through psychological talking, if it's humans, or counter conditioning and desensitizing for a dog. It's through that somatic body work. It's grounding, it's tapping, it's ice baths. I would love shelters, especially where you are, where it's hot. When it's hot here in the summer, is to have. I've always had herding dogs, and they're off leash. I always trained them off leash. One was a 100-acre ranch, one was a 40-acre ranch, some fenced, some not fenced. I always did. That's just felt natural to me to train off leash. And then you have a real bond. And, you know, the bond is what keeps the dog close to you versus a leash, and he has to stay close. But all of my working dogs, after we worked, meaning fed the horses or whatever, they would jump into cold water. Either it was a pond in Colorado or a horse trough in Texas that we would pour ice in. And that's somatic. That cold water can help calm your nerves down in a way that very little can. And I would love shelters and hot spaces to have cold water and let the dog choose. You know, I don't want people dunking the dog. And I know they have little wading pools and stuff, but in humans, it's the face.
Quite warm though, wouldn't they? The wading pool, if it's a hot day, you know, keeping that cool would be quite hard, I think.
Yeah, just a little thing like and grounding. I really feel strongly that grounding, and I don't know if I explained that very well in our first interview, but there's a negative charge from the earth. It's true. We know it's there. It's not just some weird hippie stuff for like negative charge. And if we're wearing shoes or in our cars or on bicycles or on walking on concrete, you don't get the benefit. And if we're walking our dogs on concrete, like in a street or a sidewalk, they're not getting the benefit of the charge. I feel like the outdoors is the natural environment for the dog, because most dogs do live outdoors. They don't live with humans around the world. 80% don't live with humans. They live near humans. So I feel like they have the 4 paws, and they're getting that negative charge that is crucial to them. So I take any new dog, like we just had 2 foster puppies, and I was house training them as well. And luckily the weather was nice in Utah. We spent the week they were with me outside 90% of the time. I was outside.
How are the puppies?
They all got adopted. I found out there was 10 in the litter. I thought there were 6 because they're tiny little labradoodles and so cute. And none have been returned, which I was waiting because I was going to go get them. But I haven't heard anything. It doesn't mean they're, you know, hopefully they're thriving, because it was difficult because they had some panic barking going on, and they weren't house trained. But I really feel like me being outside with them, I did it with my healers as puppies. You know, maybe get your dogs in nice weather so that you can be outside, and so they get that grounding, that energy from the earth that we observe and we desperately need, and our modern world is taking it from us. And living in houses, and we're on, I don't know about there, but everything here is concrete and, you know, roads, cements, and, you know, hardly any dirt roads. So I encourage people, if you can have a yard, you know, a lot of people do live in apartments. So then I would look for places near your apartment where the dog can get his feet onto the earth, not concrete. That to me is more important than a daily 1-hour walk. Outside, grounding, and sniffing. And that can be 20 minutes, and the dog gets its needs met way more than an hour or 2-hour run. You know, running is not dogs don't just go and run by themselves when they live next to human beings, but they are seeking that natural world, and our house is not natural.
No.
And I think it helps to think that way. What does this dog need for its species? It's like we're taking a giraffe and putting it in a zoo, and zookeepers have gotten way better at making that life better for a wild animal kept captive, but they acknowledge it's kept captive. And I don't know if owners see their dog as captive.
No. Do you want to go through a couple of these questions that I've got? Yeah. So Lisa, it's quite a long one, so bear with me. But Lisa's, and unfortunately she can't. I think it's midnight there in England, or wherever she's from, that side of the world. So Lisa says, my rescue golden retriever is dog reactive at big distances, 50 meters plus. I'm not sure what that is in. Would you use yards? I don't know. It's about the size of an Olympic swimming pool. Yeah. So no aggression, no desire to meet other dogs, just alert barking and lunging. The more panicked he gets, the closer the dog gets. Hey? The more panicked he gets, the closer the dog gets. Right. Okay. Despite 2 years of counter conditioning desensitization, which has brought the distance from 100 meters to 50 meters, I can't seem to reduce it further. He's on pain, anxiety meds, but we're not seeing any improvement. Behaviorists are puzzled as to why he's not improving, as I'm doing all the right things. Any new ideas? He lives happily with my other dog. My goal is for him to ignore dogs. No need to meet them. Thank you for any new ideas.
I love that she hit all the marks that we traditionally say, make sure the dog's not in pain, because that could be up to 80% of the reason. And that she has worked with professionals, so bravo to her. She did say that counter conditioning, and what is it, a year or more of that? And it was Dr. Laura Donaldson. She's was a college professor, brilliant mind. She's the first person I heard say professionally on a live video 3 years ago, and that's why she's in my book, counter conditioning and desensitizing does not always work. And I'm like, you can't say that, Laura. They're going to take your dog training card for it. You're going to be thrown out of the industry. And that was my experience with owners. It can not only not work, owners are not very keen on it because it takes forever and it has to be done in a very systematic way. And why I think it doesn't work is it's not addressing the nervous system. It's giving the dog gradual habituation, but that's not the same. It's almost like talk therapy for people. I'm not knocking it. I went to it for 20 years, and it can get you so far. But if you have a traumatic experience that's remembered in your lizard brain, then your body says, react right now. Let's say you were in a house fire and you were 4 years old, and somebody, your brother just was killed in the house fire, but you don't really remember all of that, but your body remembers. So you, when you're an adult, smell smoke and panic before your brain can say, I'm safe, that's just from the neighbor's chimney. And I feel like that happens with reactive dogs. They see the trigger, and we can intellectually or cognitive reappraisal also comes from Laura, where the dog we know it's capable of saying, I'm not in danger, I'm far enough away, this should be working. But if the dog was really scared, and who knows if this person knows the history of this particular dog, and it could also be some genetic, and if another dog was nervous and stressed about other dogs, the body remembers, the body keeps a score, and the body, before the brain can react, says, danger, you're in danger, and growl and bark, and they're trapped on leash. And that's what it sounds like to me, is that it's because the dog gets along at home with the other dog, which they're probably not on leash at home. So we have trapped. Movement is also very crucial to a dog. That's why I like to be outside as much as I can in a safe area. My front yard is fenced. That's why I love Sniff Spot. If you have Sniff Spots there, where you can go rent a field, and you get it for yourself. So
yeah.
That's
a brilliant idea. I don't think there's many here in Australia. I think it might be more popular in America, but yeah, it's to be able to do that with a reactive dog is so good, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't need to be around. It's not helpful to be around other dogs. They won't grow out of it. So that's one thing. You have to consider that your dog is on leash and we've restricted their movement. Movement is freedom. Movement is agency. Movement is, I'm getting the hell out of here because my body says I'm in danger. That's not the thinking brain. So we have to allow the dog movement. Well, how do you do that? One way is a longer line.
So wait, actually, before you go on, so when you say longer line, I mean, are we talking, I know I'm talking yards, you're talking feet, but I mean,
is maybe 2 arm lengths or maybe 3. And so the dog's pretty close to you and that leash is pretty tight. And tightness is restrictive, and I've taken away your freedom to flee, basically. We have leashes for safety. I'm not saying unhook your leashes. Don't do that.
I'll see ya.
Don't do that. Don't do that. They are for safety. It's like a safety belt in your car. We need them for the way our lifestyles are now. But if I had a reactive dog like this person who wrote in, I would consider a harness, hopefully, if the dog is on a harness. And maybe we have 20-foot, 30-foot. It's kind of rubbery material, or because you don't want them, if it yanks, you don't want them to go through your hand and burn your hand.
I've had that. Very pleasant.
But way before you even do that, you got to work on the relationship and the bonding. That's like I said, I did everything off leash with my dogs on a 100-acre ranch, 5 dogs at a time, and all my fosters, 400 fosters over 10 years. They stayed with me because of that bond. I spent so much time on the bond. We were a unit, not a pack. These dogs aren't pack animals. They're social animals. And they did a ton of check-ins. I feel like a recall is make sure that reactive dog has a really good recall at home, off leash, because then you know if it's solid or not. Because if it's on leash, you just reel it in, or the dog hits the end of the leash and knows it's caught. My dogs I always train a really good recall, always off leash. So to me, that bond where I say my dog's name, I want their head to turn and say, what are we going to do next that's fun? And to get that at home in an environment you can control, preferably outside because of the grounding and the freedom of movement. Even if you have to rent a field, if you can do that, here you can rent yards. Which I didn't know in Utah, it's like $5 an hour, $7 an hour. You can just go in a neighborhood and go to 3 in one day, and you get the back if you don't have a yard. That's a really good solution. I don't know if I hope that comes there. But it has to start at home when the dog is calm, and you have to be calm. There is, we can share our emotions with dogs and can come down for the leash. And so many owners are like, crap, there's a dog. And they pull on the leash. It becomes a cue. And then the dog's like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it?
Yeah.
So I would work with that particular dog at home, deep relaxation. There's, we talked about last time, rubbing some of these pressure points counterclockwise. You go, same with the dog, that indention right here, because this gets to the nerves in a way. And that's what that dog needs, is to, more than any, engage, disengage, look at that, all these skills that we can train and they're useful. But first, the body system has to calm down. And it might include not walking the dog for 30 days. I don't know if she's tried that. While you are making sure that bond is tight, off leash work as much as you can do it for the reasons I said, while you're doing body work and calming those nerves. So you can if the dog will let you rub here and you go back behind the ear, and there's another indentation here. Same with dogs, because they're so similar to us, and that's why we know it works. And then you go down to the collarbone, and you don't have to rub forever. And it's just counterclockwise or tapping. Look up tapping online, and you say an affirmation, which I absolutely love. So you can tap for the dog, which seems counterintuitive. One of my healers loves me to tap on him up here on his head, or with thunder. He's scared. And I say an affirmation. And at first you feel really dumb. And believe me, I'm the most skeptical person in the world about this stuff. But it helped me personally, and it's helped my dogs, and it's helped my clients' dogs like that. So with Finn, who's scared of thunder, I tap him up here. Just light tapping. It's not hard. I'm tapping a pressure point here. I might do his chest. And I say, Finn, even though you're scared of thunder, and I can see your eyes darting, you are safe, and I love you unconditionally. And just to say that, whether they know what it means or not, you're still saying an affirmation and talking in a calm voice, and then you can tap yourself. Like if you ever got nervous I've done a lot of these summits, but if live made me nervous, which it doesn't, I love live, but if it did, or if I had to do a big speech in public, like in person, I would tap myself, even though I'm a little nervous right now. I know that I can handle this. And there you tap pressure points, and again up here and up here, and you really feel like an idiot if people are watching you. But if I just want people to try tapping, look it up.
Yeah. Where can people find some resources on that? And before you answer that, I will say that Dr. Janet Rourke is coming in to do a live tomorrow. Unfortunately, I've sent her an email because I don't know if her clocks have changed, so I'm not sure if she's going to be at the same time. But we'll get to that. But I think, could you combine essential oils, because that's what she talks about? Could you combine tapping with some sort of essential oil as well? Calming essential oil, do you think?
Yes, and she will know more about which ones are appropriate for dogs, because some are and some aren't, than I do. But I think the oil is also very important because of their sense of smell is so intense. And I know that when I've gotten massages, I like to get the CBD oil and just another layer of relaxation. And we know that if it's real CBD and it's not really regulated. But I want to, from my perspective, from what I've learned about the nervous system, I do think essential oil can certainly be part of that somatic body work, because it's coming through your nose, and help you relax. I would just, for myself and the dogs I've worked on, I would want to add some way to get to that actual nervous system. And cold, like I said before, I used to have a startle reflex with just me and my husband, and I would jump and I would swing because of my psychotic brother. When I was growing up, he would get outside my door and scratch on the door when I was a teenager alone watching a scary movie. And I'd open the door and I'd swing because I had to fight. That's one of the trauma responses: fight, flight, fawn. I have fight. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. And so if people startle me, I can in my own home. It's only my husband. I can jump. And one time he was behind the other door and I had a coffee cup, and we talked about it last time, and I stopped myself. I was swinging and I was going to hit him in the face. And that's the amygdala saying, you're in danger. I remember, I'm doing this to protect you. And that was 40 years ago for me when I was in danger and I was scared to death. But the body keeps the score, and I hadn't dealt with it. And COVID brought it out because no one else was here. And it was very apparent that he could startle me, so much so that he would say, I'm walking down the hall now. And he trained himself to let me know. And I said, I have to fix this. This is not fair for him. And what if I had hit him? How do you...
Body tap too, yeah.
How do you make sense of that? So I did cold showers at the end of a shower, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Since I was 15 years old. That's why I believe in it.
It's powerful. Yeah. Might move on to the next question. This is from Lynn. And again, she's in Europe somewhere, Ireland, I think. So she wanted to be here, but the time was just too bad. So Lynn says, I have a rescue dog who was born to feral parents and was not rescued until she was 15 months. At that time, he was very fearful of people, but liked other dogs. He's now 7 and tolerates people in the house and can be friendly towards them. The issue is he exhibits aggressive behavior towards our other dogs on our walks. This was a gradual change in his behavior. During this change, he was attacked twice. Oh, dear. It's so sad, isn't it? Attacked twice from behind by a same dog who was off leash. At this point, if he sees a dog from a distance, he freezes. And if the dog is coming towards us, he barks and lunges. I know we are supposed to give him a choice to give him confidence, but at this point, he will choose to attack. So I walk him the other way. At this point, he is on high alert and logically continues to look back towards the other dog until out of sight and safe. He's also now freezing and staring at people, which I don't like. We live in Florida, and I've been walking him at noon on wooded paths. That's the end of that, I think. Let me just have a quick squeeze. Yeah.
So she mentioned freezing, which is a traumatic response. Fawn, freeze, fight, or flight. And again,
just more. Sorry, I don't know why it hasn't. I'll just quickly read it out. We've been on wooded paths since that is a time when it is less likely to run into other people and dogs. Our weather is cooling down, and we are coming across more and more people and dog walkers. I can't walk him on the street in my neighborhood due to the neighbors with dogs that get loose. I want to keep walking him. It is how we bonded when I first got him. When I first got him, I kept his feral dog hours with him, and we took walks from dusk up till 3 a.m. I am unable to do that anymore. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought we'd finish
My
that.
book is called The Midnight Dog Walkers, and I got that from clients because that's what they do. They tend to avoid it. So one thing I would say is you've mentioned a trauma. This owner has mentioned a trauma response, which is freeze. That's trauma. And you mentioned that he was attacked twice by the same dog. So that's traumatic. They don't know if they're going to live or die, and dog fights can sound so terrible. Even if no one is actually hurt, neither dog's hurt, they snap like they're going to kill each other, and they tend to go for the throat. It's terrifying. He might have been smaller than the other dogs or older. So the body keeps the score for dogs. We know this as well as us. He's had trauma, and plus he was feral. He's had trauma before this happened. So you could pinpoint it in this case to that attack, but his system was probably already on hyper alert anyway, even if he wasn't growling and freezing and staring, just because of being feral and not having his nervous system relaxed as the mother dog could have done, or a safe environment. He wasn't safe as a feral dog, and then coming into a house, he had to adjust to that. So even if we provided everything, it's still, a feral dog, we take away their movement. And again, movement is freedom, and movement is agency. So a couple of things I would suggest, and maybe you've tried this as well. That's the one thing, if they're not here, we don't know what.
Yeah, we can ask questions, yeah.
But one, don't walk the dog for 30 days. And people fight me on this, and that's part of our fault.
But I can get why they fight you on it, though, because people are like, are you what?
And the industry told them to. We, as trainers, kind of shamed owners, you're at least an hour once a day, period. Well, that's for a dog that's not triggered. We didn't know about triggering. And so if a dog is walked every single day and hypervigilant, where is it? Even if you're walking at weird hours, because the boogeyman is always there, and the body remembers that, even if the brain says, I'm safe with my husband, I know it's my husband walking down the hall, something happened to me that was traumatic over and over and over again when I was 12, and 40 years later, it comes out in that exact situation. So we have to convince his brain, the lizard brain, and his nervous system that he's safe. One way to do that is that 30-day, whatever it could be. It could be 20 days, it could be 40, it could be 90 days. Each dog is different. But if they see their trigger every single day, the nervous system cannot relax. It just cannot. And just by walking this dog, because of what has happened, and probably also because he was feral before she got him, his nervous system is on high alert. So we have to do everything we can to calm that down before a walk ever happens, as much as we can do it, because you can't calm down the nervous system on a walk if it's hypervigilant. It's like when a dog is barking, lunging, we say you can't do training in that moment. He's over threshold. So 30 days at home, give it a try. No walking. There's so much we can do that the dog will enjoy more. Nose work, canine enrichment. I love Shay Kelly's Canine Enrichment Facebook group. It's 500,000 dog owners from all around the world. He's got a book. There's lots of free, inexpensive things you can do at home. You got to engage the nose. If she has a yard, have that dog outside as much as you can be. It's really hot in Florida, as she mentioned, but now it is cooling down. So be outside with the dog and read a book, because again, I think they need that grounding with their 4 feet, and dirt and grass. A lot of people in Florida have pools that are covered and it's just cement. There's no grass. So the dog needs grass, and he needs dirt wherever. And again, they probably have sniff spots in Florida. I can't tell you how much grounding and being outside and freedom of movement that will help regulate his nervous system. She can do. I don't know if she can watch this later because it's live, but in our other.
No. So I got confused. So Lynn is, as you said, in Florida. So it was, someone else that was in
overseas. Yeah, and because Florida's.
Look now. Yeah.
And she's 2 hours ahead of me too. So where we are now.
She might be watching.
And if she is, and if she has any other questions, but again, it's about the nervous system and and helping the dog self-regulate. And that's not going to happen if you're still walking the dog. The dog is, because it was attacked. Even if he doesn't look like he's looking, the ears, the eyes, he's listening. So the walk then, oh my God, for the body. Even if she walks up at 1 a.m. and nothing ever happens for 6 months, nothing happened to me for 40 years, and it came back. We say the body keeps the score, and the body in that dog is keeping the score. So we have to, talk therapy isn't going to do it for a dog, or counter conditioning is not going to regulate the nervous system. It just won't. It's not set up to do that. Counter conditioning comes after the nervous system has been regulated, and we teach the dog to stop. Even taking a breath, we teach the dog to take a breath, which you can look online, because that can really, we know that helps us, and it can help them as well. So my prescription would be 30 days no walking, work on the bond, work at home, do nose work, because that lights up the dog's happy centers, the dopamine in the brain. Work on making sure the dog doesn't have a reason for the body to say, oh my God, I'm in danger. And that sounds like other dogs. You can do so much at home, and you kind of have to in these really hot places in like Florida. I moved from Texas because I couldn't take it. It was hot 8 months. And so we probably, I'm guessing, unless some people handle humidity better than I do, but dogs may not. She's probably at home a lot part of the summer anyway, because it's so freaking hot.
She's here, actually. So she says, we have a yard. We also have a lure course. He comes out when, I love lure coursing. He comes out when I am working in the yard. When I tried movement puzzles outside, like he said, he was not focusing. He kept checking the area. At any sound. Is that in your yard, Len, that you mean that he's doing that?
It sounds like it. And what kind of fence? Like, is it a vinyl, can't see, mine's white and they can't see through, but the front yard they can see through, and they're barking now. But so she's very observant, and like I said, she's done a lot of things, yes, in the yard, a lot of things very well, and I applaud that. I would then, he does need to be outside, and he does need to have that moment, chain link fence, so he can see through. I would work on the somatic work inside for a while. I would do nose work, find out where his baseline comfort is. I did nose work in my garage one winter, free work. Look up Sarah Fisher's free work. It's, your hands are off. That's why I like it. And you're observing and filming. I like to film. And it's nose work, but it's way more than nose work. And you're watching the body. And I used free work to get my dogs to consent to jump in the car because they were claustrophobic.
Sarah Fisher, free work.
Sarah Fisher's free work. So start where the baseline, where you can see, observe, because she has very good observation skills, this owner, where the dog is most relaxed, and then light up the brain and teach breath, take a breath, which you can find online. Do free work in your house, nose work in your house. Do these. So if she's still on, she can see us. If he'll let you. It's very light. You're not pressing hard, counterclockwise at the temple, all the way around, because you're getting that nervous system. Consider ice baths or cold water. It's something bigger than a kiddie pool. If the dog is willing to jump in it, we're not throwing him in. We're just making it available, especially because it's hot. And that could get the lizard brain, is the cold water. Humans got to put it on their face. You could even try putting it, if he'll let you, putting some cold water on his face. You could tap.
That's actually really interesting. So I never even thought about this till you've brought it up here, and also when we had our interview about the cold water. Like, if I've throughout my life, been upset, been crying for some awful whatever reason, I'll go and splash cold water on my face, and it helps, doesn't it? Yeah. So it's,
and crying can be somatic. Crying is a reset, and it's a good thing. It can really reset your nervous system. And we are told not to, don't be babies and cry. You're an adult. And crying is, I had to learn to cry because I was not a big crier. I kept it all. And now I'm like, don't get me going, because I'll start crying. And that's available to me now as a tool. So I just want to, hopefully we've given her this owner new ideas. Start the baseline, teach, take a breath, work on the somatic stuff, look up somatic body work. Laura Donaldson has a course on Thinkific, which anyone around the world can do. It's somatic is life-saving for dogs. Dr. Laura Donaldson, that's where I've learned it from. And look up somatic body work and what all that means. And grounding is important. So if this was my dog, I'd want to get him as comfortable as I could in the house for 30 days, no walking.
Excuse my spelling error.
And then gradually just spend little moments outside because the grounding is so, and they can still maybe ground in the house because one of my dogs self-grounds, but it's not the earth. You know, we've built everything on top of the earth and it blocks that negative charge that we get. And again, this is, you can look it up. I'm not making it up. Grounding is scientifically proven. Because he has to be comfortable in his own yard and that nervous system calm in his own yard before I would ever walk him.
Do you think, sorry, can I ask you a question? Just because she did mention she's got a chain link fence. Would he be better off with a fence that isn't chain link, that is, you know, paneled? Yeah.
I would block his view, and it almost looks like the green that's in a tennis court and chain link fence, green fabric. She could put that, because I've done that in chain link. Yeah. Just to block at least the visual, but he can still hear and smell. And I would want to know, what are there dogs on either side of him, because that sounds like the trigger. And sometimes it's the chain on the collar, the tags. You could counter conditioning with another collar and a tag. If she knows counter conditioning, which she probably does because she's been working with behaviorists. But again, you've got to do the nervous system first. I cannot stress that enough. And again, it sounds like wackadoodle stuff if you haven't looked into it and tried it yourself. Like, try it on yourself first. Like,
yeah, I think that's a good point. Yeah, try it on yourself. And if you know, if you can, you know, you'll feel it's working on yourself, then yeah, do it to your dog, for your dog, I should say.
And certain things may work for certain systems better, like grounding. I was like, it's cold, but I'll try it. Like, not in the snow, but we have like 4 or 5 months of really nice, beautiful weather and tall grass. So I've tried it a few times. I'm like, I didn't feel a charge. I didn't really feel that much. Tapping works for me. Tapping is, I can feel just an immediate kind of relaxation, and it just calms down your heart rate, calms down my nerves, and cold showers on my face or ice bath. Those work for me. It's like, not every single one of these is going to work for every single, just like anything. Yeah. But I would encourage anybody who's listening, and especially owners with reactive dogs, to not put the cart before the horse, not think about training, not look at that. And I love these things. I write about them all the time. Look at that, or engage and disengage, or counter conditioning. That's when the nervous system is calm. And look at ways to calm your own nervous system, because we're part of the problem.
Yeah.
I'd like if everybody could learn the somatic body work, because it's fast. That's the thing. I stopped my startle reflex of 40 years. I mean, it would crop up every now and then, but then COVID really highlighted it because no one else was in the house. And intellectually, it's my husband. I know it's him because there's nobody else in the house. There's not a burglar. We're in a safe neighborhood. And I would still startle. And I got tired of it. I'm like, I would be so irritated if my spouse jumped every time I walked into a room. He drove me crazy. He's a lot more patient. And I fixed it. I mean, I can still be really...
How long did it take then? Because you just said it was fast. So what's...
I would say it almost reduced it almost immediately. But if I'm really tired or stressed, then I'm more likely to jump. But it was like once a week I would jump, to once every 3 months. I think I did it recently because of those puppies that I had wore me out. So I startled. I mean, I would scream and jump.
Yeah.
And again, that's my lizard brain. That's not my rational brain. That's my body saying you're in danger. You need to, in my case, fight. Another person would freeze or run.
My brother was horrible to me as well when I was a kid, when we were teenagers. I would call it torture, but yeah. But yeah. But sorry, go on.
There's a lot in trauma about sibling abuse that people don't talk about. And particularly, was he an older brother?
Yeah.
Mine was only 2 years older. And my parents weren't home because we grew up in the 70s and we were latchkey kids. So, you know, he was rotten, but as he says, shit rolls downhill in the family, and he got it from the bad. Sorry.
Oh.
Family was dysfunctional, and he was expressing the dysfunction, but in a bully way, and he wasn't stopped. And so I think, and that's early chronic trauma, and it comes out. It will come out. You'll get sick, or you're going to have a startle reflex, or you're going to have a weird thing that you don't understand why your body does it.
Yeah. There is one question, I think it might be more directed for me, but so what's the best way to tackle separation anxiety? I have a 2-year-old Pyrenees mix who has been with me for 24 7 for the last 8 months due to a death in the family, which left me broken and unemployed. As I am starting to get healthier, I will need to find employment and have no resources locally for him due to the rural area. And then she says, we're starting fluoxetine this week after transitioning off trazodone. Yeah. So it's hard to know without more answers, but so he's only 2 years old, so he's still a baby, lots of energy. He doesn't know what to do with it, so making sure he gets all his needs met. Are you doing full-time work? So it's good that he's maybe going on fluoxetine, transitioning off for trazodone. Yeah, I mean, training. How long is it till you go back to work? Sorry, which left me broken. I'm starting to get healthier. I'm so sorry for your loss as well. And thank you for taking on this boy. Oh dear. I need to find employment. Okay, so you haven't got anything. So I would start doing some training if he's been with you 24/7 for such a long time. Yeah. The good news is in December, I'm starting a membership, which will be really helpful for you. So you can literally not have to think about what your next step is. All the steps are given to you. So stay tuned for that. That will be helpful for you. I will be doing some announcements about that down the track. Just not quite there yet, beginning of December. So a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, probably 2 months, not working right now. We do sniff walks and other indoor enrichment. Yeah. And of course, all the stuff that Annie's been saying, do some somatic body work, get him calm in the house, all that sort of stuff. And obviously, the grounding and the sniffing and the grass. Yeah.
And for her, I don't know if it's a her, but I'm assuming most of us are given doing the training and the caretaking. But she said, I listen to what people say as a journalist and listen to what I also don't say. And she said words that almost broke me. I mean, that's a very honest thing to say, but that's trauma. Maybe it's chronic, but it could have come out of a chronic family. Who knows? But so she's had trauma. So she needs to also do some somatic, I would suggest somatic body work for herself.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yes, work on it all, kind of like you said right at the beginning of this conversation. You said you have to kind of work on yourself and then start working on the dog, and then in terms of how they are, how they feel, and then worry about the actual behavior thereafter.
And so many of us got dogs, and now we're seeing the fallout of that during COVID because I'm at home. The world is shut down. I'm terrified, and dogs can comfort us. And they always have until it doesn't work anymore for them. And now I'm sure you're getting an onslaught of dogs that have separation anxiety because the owner has called back to the office and the dog is used to that human being there. And I also think with separation anxiety, definitely work with a professional like Ness. Like I am not officially trained and that's not my specialty. And I refer out separation anxiety to those people like Ness. And I would highly encourage working with a professional because that's complex. It's a complex.
Yeah. It's always so hard though, because as she says here too, she has no resources, but if she's not working, it's the financial impact. And that is why I'm actually starting this membership for people like her that, can't afford a proper, 6-month program, which is what my group coaching program is. I'm starting this membership. So it's a monthly subscription. It's cheap. It gives you all the steps. It's still support, but you don't have to worry, what should I be doing now? But then if that's, if it's not launching for another month, so, you've got some time to work on yourself, work on your, and then your dog, and then start doing the training. Yeah.
And the somatic bodywork is free. That's what I love about it. You just have to spend the time learning it and trying it. Like it's not hard to take a cold shower, but again, how do you do it? I take a normal shower and then I turn on the cold as I'm done on my face. It really needs to be on your face. It could be all over, but the face is where the main nerve goes from your head down. And I'm up to like maybe 20 seconds since I've been doing it since January of this year. Some people, you can see it on TikTok and YouTube, get ice baths, like these big horse troughs, and they'll self-immerse. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. Or they'll just stick their face at the end of the day into a cold ice bath, because again, it's the face. So I would encourage her. I think it can help her self-regulate herself, because she's had,
Trauma. Yeah.
And she acknowledges that and is aware of that, which is the first step. And work on the tapping. Tapping is free. And I love that affirmation. The affirmation that starts, even though I've had a really hard time the past 6 months or a year, I know that I'll get through this, or I have lots of friends who support me, or I have a dog that I love, whatever it is. I was working with a client. She was my former landlady here. We rented when we first moved to Utah. And she called me, and I'd met her dog. He's half, well, I'm not going to say the breed, but he's an intense dog and a big dog. And we were talking on the phone, and she said, well, he's that way because he has cancer. And I said, the dog has cancer? Because he was like 3. She goes, no, I have cancer. And I don't think she would mind me saying this. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. And she said, yes, it's terminal.
Oh.
Very matter of fact. And she's my age. And so she wanted me to come help the dog. And normally I would have been like, this is too stressful. I don't know what to say to her. What do you say to someone that she's from the Northeast, like Maine area, and she's very direct, which I like, and very direct and matter of fact about it. But I told her about grounding, and because her nervous system is, she's on chemotherapy and everything else, and he's responding is what he's doing to people, her caretakers coming in. He has a guardian type breed in him.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, we have got to calm both of your nerves as much as we possibly can under the situation. And she really liked the grounding. So I felt like as a human being, I had something to give to her that was free, that you could be lying in bed and do it. You don't have to have, like going to the gym and lifting weights for an hour. And she could do it for him too. You can do it on behalf of the other dog, or she could, he's a dog that I couldn't get to take a breath. He's one of the first dogs I couldn't get to take a breath because he was too wired. And she could get him to take a breath because they're together 24/7. And so just teaching her to do that, and she could now do, because she liked all of that kind of thing, natural healing. So it's a very good thing.
YouTube is great for EFT. What's EFT?
Is that the eye thing, the eye movement?
Breathwork videos for people who aren't familiar with it. I need to incorporate it more in my diet. Okay, cool. Yeah. EFT. Yeah, I don't know what EFT is. What's EFT? But so in terms of the grounding and the somatic body work, I know you mentioned tapping, she says, right.
That's a tap.
You mentioned the somatic body work and Dr. Laura Donaldson. Is that, can people jump on your website to learn about this, or are you emotional frequency tapping? Yeah,
I have heard it called that. Yeah, interesting. I'm glad other people have heard about it because it makes me feel less like I'm out there on it.
Yeah. People are like, okay, no.
I'm extremely skeptical. I'm like, this is crap. This is weird.
And that's what makes it more credible, because you are a skeptic. And if you're the skeptic saying, no, you need to try this, then it actually gives it a lot of credibility.
It's not going to hurt. You might have a lot to gain. I just really, when I saw that diagram of the nerves and how many nerves there are, and the whole vagus nerve and vagal nerve theory, and my own body keeps the score startle reflex, and when I realized that came from trauma, and that I had no control over it either. That's creepy to think your body is, because it's an old strategy that did protect you, but you don't need it anymore. And that's what I think happens with reactive dogs. It's a strategy that is hypervigilance. I'm going to stay aware, and I'm going to see that dog coming, whether the dog is there or not. And they don't necessarily need it. And it's our job to say, we need to reach that part of your brain that is a reflex almost. The body keeps the score. You thought you were going to die that day, and it could have, or been badly hurt, terribly frightened, on top of a nervous system that was probably already not regulated because of the being feral and all of that. So it's up to us in these new ways, and they're not new actually. A lot of this is very ancient stuff, but it's up to us to not put the cart in front of the horse and say, I have got to help you calm down, and I have got to calm down.
Yeah.
And the fastest way that I know physically how to do it is somatic body work. Did you have a question? Oh, Laura, so it's not on my webpage, and I learned a lot of this from Dr. Laura Donaldson. She has a course on several courses on Thinkific, and anyone can access Thinkific in the world. And her courses are not very expensive. I think that one might be, but it's a couple of week course, and she teaches you how to tap. And she's a trained expert in trauma, human trauma too. She's incredible. Teaches you how to tap and then how to do it for dogs. And then when I took the course, there were 2 Facebook Lives, and I'm not sure if that is recorded, and I'm not sure if there's still lives with each course. I think there might be, because that's where you get all your questions answered, and you can show videos of your own dog and ask questions. And it's not just tapping, but she does walk through the tapping and the grounding, and Laura brings the science, better than anybody I've ever seen. Like, she can, because our systems are so similar to a dog's. They have a nervous system. We know they have a nervous system. They have the amygdala. They have the lizard brain. So it only makes sense, and that's why we study them and abuse them in laboratories, because their body system is so similar, and it makes sense because we evolved together. Yes, they chose us, or I think they chose us, because we are a very aggressive species, and it's not like we would take in a raccoon or a deer to be in our life. I think the dog kind of hung around, and a few of them said, maybe we can work together, and they walked alongside us. And it worked for many, many, many years when we needed them to be the farm hand or guard the beef or guard the store or whatever. And then our lives changed in the last 100 to 200 years drastically, particularly in the last 50. And they're not doing what we bred them to do all of these years. And everybody's physical space is getting smaller, and COVID didn't help. Everybody cocooned and stayed home. Like, we would walk our dogs around and outside. I always felt safe outside, even during COVID, before we knew if it was safe. No one was around for 6 months. Like, people just went inside their houses. And that's a nature deficit, which also is part of all of our stress, and same with dogs.
Yeah, cool. There's no more questions, but anyway, if people want to reach out to you, they can, can't they? So just jump onto your website. Yeah,
phenixdogs.com. It's PHENIXDOGS. And I do have courses, including bringing joy back into your dog's life, because that gets lost with reactive dogs. It's a 4-week course that's a reset, and I do talk about a lot of this stuff. And I'm working on travel phobia, because that's a big issue. And my 2 healers that I got at 5.5 weeks, were taken from a northern state to a southern state, 7 hours in a car, and thrown in the backyard, and had worms and fleas. And I got them at 5.5 weeks, and their body remembers the score getting in the car.
All right. Yeah.
And so all the medicine in the world, people said ginger snaps, all this people say, did not help a bit. I mean, they had stuff coming out of both ends, and I could feel Finn's heartbeat and like bubbles and panic. And now they're 4, and we can go. I probably couldn't go hours with him, and he'll never love the car. But I got consent through free work of him jumping in versus shoving. They have to choose to get in. And now when we walk past, we go out through the garage, they look at the car and they try to get in the car. And that's right. And we go places. And if we go too far, he might throw up. But he knows it's going to be, he's safe. And we're going to, and it took 4 years. I wasn't working on it the 4 years, because 2 years was COVID, and we just didn't go anywhere. I didn't ask them to go anywhere. And I had a vet who came here, and that's a luxury. But anyway, so that's I do have some courses, but I feel like Laura's the expert on somatic body work.
Okay. It's interesting how training changes, isn't it? So, years ago, you don't want to get in the car, tough luck, you're getting in the car.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of, there's more people being a bit more open to the whole choice and consent.
Yeah. I mean, it starts stressful. I'm shoving you in the thing that terrifies you, and I'll just take short drives and you'll be fine. No, because you shoved them in there.
Yeah, entrapment. Annie, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you as ever. And people reach out to Annie on her website, and start. Hopefully, this has been helpful for everybody. And it's always a good discussion. So
Thanks for having me. I love the summit, and I do have a new book out that is a bestseller, Positive Training for Aggressive and Reactive Dogs, but it's all sorts of behavior issues. That I didn't get to choose the title, and it's really all the major behavior issues that owners tell us about. Some of it's step by step, which you have to adjust to your dog because they're, there's not one way to teach anything. You have to adapt it to your dog, one right way. But there is some separation anxiety in there, and there is reactivity in chapter 4, and Laura's in there, and Sarah Fisher's in there. And I wrote it for owners so they can start, because there's not enough quality, well-trained behavior experts that don't use force. And I would rather you start on your own and not be so fearful that you're going to make it worse. And that's why I wrote the book.
So someone said, this has been great and wonderful, helpful information. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, thank you, Annie.
Happy to be here.